let's take a look at an example. Carlos plays college soccer. He makes a goal 65% of the time he shoots. Carlos is going to attempt 2 goals in a row in the next game, and he tends to shoot in streaks. The probability that he makes the second goal, given that he made the first goal, is 0.90. What is the probability that Carlos makes both goals? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is talk about the 2 events we're interested in. Okay, we'll call G1 the event where Carlos makes the first goal. And event G sub 2 is the event where Carlos makes the second goal. By the way, there's no mathematical significance to these numbers here. We just use subscripts generally to indicate when we want to use the same letter or variable more than once. So I like to use G for both of these because they're both talking about a goal. G is a good abbreviation for that. But to distinguish them, this is the first G, this is the second G. That's all the subscript means. Okay? So let's interpret what the problem's telling us. He makes a goal 65% of the time. So that's all we know about the probability that he is going to make a goal when he shoots. So based on that, the probability that Carlos makes the first goal is 65%, or 0.65 as a decimal. And the probability that Carlos makes his second goal is also 0.65. That's all the information we know. Okay? Generally, he makes goals 65% of the time, and both these are probabilities that he makes a goal. Okay? But then we get some additional information. Because he generally shoots in streaks, the probability that he makes the second goal, given that he makes the first goal, is 0.90. So if we have an additional piece of information, if we already know he has made the first goal, then we can recalculate the probability that he's going to make that second goal. So the probability that Carlos makes that second goal, given that we already know he's made the first goal, is 0.90. That probability shoots up to 90%. Okay? Now what we want to know is what is the probability that Carlos makes both goals. So in mathematical notation, that means we want to know the probability that Carlos makes the first goal and the second goal, both goals. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to use the multiplication rule. The multiplication rule, there's a couple of them that we could use here. We could either say probability of G1 times probability of G2 given G1, or equivalently, probability of G2 times probability of G1 given G2. Okay? Now, which one should we use? Both are valid, both work, both will give the same answer, but we know all the pieces to apply this formula now. We know probability of G1, and we know probability of G2 given G1. We do not have all the pieces to use this formula right away. We know probability of G2, but we don't know probability of G1 given G2. So that would mean we'd have to put in some extra work to find this probability first. And we'd rather not do that. Okay? So we are going to use this first formula here and not this formula, just because we don't have all the pieces already. This is the easier formula to use. So plugging in, probability of G1 is 0.65. Probability of G2 given G1 is 0.90. And if I throw that into a calculator, I get 0.585. That's the probability that Carlos makes both the first goal and the second goal in his next game. There's a 58.5% chance that he'll make both goals in his next game.